people from Tuvalu, and they were making themselves visible. I see Elliot nodding because it's been very odd in there. They were talking about the absence of their future, the disappearance of their country, which is a form of genocide. It meets the UN definition of genocide, which is the acts that lead to the disappearance of a people. And as they were staging this protest, you watched people in business suits file by and look at their shoes and try not to meet their eyes, in the way that you see people in the streets avert their eyes in the face of a homeless person. But this was a country that was disappearing. And that's what it feels like over there. Here, another model is finding its voice. And this is a historic gathering. It is a historic gathering because Jubilee South has been organizing these types of gatherings in the South. There was a climate debt tribunal in Bangkok during the negotiations. This discussion has been happening, but I don't think there's ever been an event this large in the global North. Not that I've come across in my research on this issue. So everybody in this room is now part of history, and I think that carries with it a particular responsibility to bring more people into this discussion. I think this will be the defining issue of our time. And there's something about this issue. You know, it doesn't take a lot to bring people around to it. It has what I call like an oh yeah quality to it. People get it right away. As soon as they hear the argument, they can't believe that they missed it before. And that really has the making of a very powerful movement. But at the same time, I think we have to step back and recognize what's happened here. This issue is now on the map. When I was writing an article about climate debt a month ago, and I would tell people I was writing about climate debt, I was met with blank stares, including from very sophisticated activists. They hadn't heard of the concept. Now look around. We see climate debt agents. We have pay reparations now T-shirts. It's on the news. This is happening. And it is the defining issue of this summit. And the people who are behind this gathering today are the ones that we have to thank for it. Now, I also want to acknowledge some of the history of the reparations movement, because we've talked here on this panel about the stealing of resources from all of these countries. You know, and when you look at the panel that went before this one, I was struck looking at the countries represented, and you just see how graphically this issue manifests itself. These are some of the richest countries in the world. Think of the gold and the diamonds of South Africa. Think of the silver and the copper of Bolivia. Think of the oil in Ecuador and the forests. I mean, these are very, very rich countries that have been pillaged and are continuing to be pillaged, and the pillage is continuing at the Bell Center. So this, you know, we are seeing a redefinition of environmentalism, which has always been a bit of a kind of sort of touchy-feely movement here in the North. We're all in it together, let's hold hands, right? There's nothing wrong with holding hands, but the fact is we're not all in it together in the same way. There is an inverse relationship between the people who created the problem and where the effects of those problems are being felt. There's an inverse relationship between who created the problem and who can afford to save themselves from the problem. And it isn't only in the global South. Think about New Orleans. Right? It's also the South and the North. The people who had resources could drive out of the disaster zone. The people who depended on the state were left on their roofs, a kind of a climate apartheid. In the United States, so we have this discussion of reparations. In the United States, when you talk about reparations, it's not about the stealing of resources as much as it is about the stealing of people. So this movement that we are talking about today is part of that movement as well. In fact, at a conference in 2001 in Durban, South Africa, the conference on racism, the issue of ecological debt was one of the issues on the agenda, but so was reparations for slavery. And I think there's some people here from NCOBRA from the United States, which is the national coalition calling for reparations for slavery. And they deserve to be acknowledged because this movement is building on their work as well. I want to